Good morning. This is Scott Cullen. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Cannata Report. It is so great to be with you this morning. It's time for another episode of Fridays with Frank. Before I bring out Frank and his special guest, don't forget, like, subscribe, comment, send Frank your questions. He loves to respond. And now, please welcome our founder, Frank Cannata. How you doing today, and what's on your mind, and who's joining us?
Thank you, Scott. We're pleased to welcome West McDonald here, he's just shared with us a very interesting comment because West has gotten into the AI area, and from what we've heard, has done a very good job of explaining to dealers what AI is really all about and what it can do and can't do. At any rate, Wes, welcome and nice to have you here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Frank. I always love watching the program, and super thrilled to actually be a guest on the show today.
Well, thanks. We're certainly happy to welcome you. You know, Wes, one of the things that impressed me at the Cannata Minolta meeting in Sarasota is they had a company who AI is their bag, so to speak, and they're out there educating their clients on the proper use of AI, and they believe it's a very positive way to increase productivity in sales. What's your thoughts on using AI in that manner?
Yeah, I absolutely agree, but I think it really depends. The one thing that we learned was how you do that, right? And, sort of going back a little bit, before we became GoWest.ai, we were West McDonald Co. And our first foray into AI was training, right? So we actually did train folks on how to use different aspects of the tool and everything else. And the one thing that I've learned, and I should have known this lesson right up front, was that it's very difficult to get traction with training from very seasoned, sales reps. They're good at what they do. We're not really going to retrain, their sales process. What we need to do, and what I quickly discovered, was figure out how to incorporate AI almost invisibly into their sales process, so that it's not an additional thing for them to have to do, right? That's been one of the big learnings. I don't know if anyone will be able to see it today, but an example of that is the AI rabbit that I have on the call today as well, right, in the interview. And no, the rabbit's not going to contribute to the interview, but what it is doing, and I do this with sales reps all the time, is it's going to summarize what we talk about today, and it automatically uploads to my CRM. So I use HubSpot. It will go into HubSpot for any sales opportunities that you happen to be working on, and of course, any other CRM that people are working with. And it also updates my tasks. So instead of me having to remember what I'm supposed to do after this call, it goes into Asana automatically, where I can then go in afterwards and make sure that I remember to, to act on those things, right? So AI is a phenomenal tool, in the sales process when it's as invisible as possible, right? That's really, what we try and do with at least the sales folks. Of course, that's different. The use cases for AI across different departments is much different. But for sales reps, that's really where we've landed, right? Make their job easier, give them more time to do what they're good at, and that's selling.
When you say invisible, is the concept then that you're utilizing it without anybody being consciously aware that they're using it?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, obviously, the customer's aware, because in this modern age, whenever I introduce myself on a sales call, I usually start off with a warm little thing about my AI, right? And I tell people, I say, hey, look, I've got my AI, it's in the meeting, it's going to record this and do updates for me so that I can pay more attention to you and make sure that I'm actually doing some more active listening, right? And people are okay with that. But for the sales rep themselves, yeah, it's not something they actively have to, turn on or use. Once it's installed, once it's up and running, it just automatically happens in the background. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. I get to spend some time with some very fine educators at Seton Hall, because I'm involved as an alum in several things going on at the university. And they were telling me that at the beginning of the school semester, whatever it is, spring, fall, they tell their students, now, you're going to have specific assignments. If you use AI, believe me, I will catch you. You will fail. Now, I said, how the hell can you catch somebody using AI? She said that there were specific words that crop up in AI. What's the story about that?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. So the way it works, and the one that I use most of the time is ChatGPT, right? So it has a voice. It definitely has a tone and a voice. So when you ask it to write something, it will write in its voice. And once you learn what that voice looks like in that tone, it's like, for example, I can always tell when I'm reading something by Scott because he has a very specific style to Scott Cullen, right? And AI is the same. That being said, there are ways to train the AI. We work with dealers all the time to actually create custom, what we call custom GPTs, which are trained in the voice of the company. So if they have an approved tone, an approved voice, then it will actually write in that approved tone in that voice. So there are ways to make sure that it doesn't have that standard voice, but most people don't go that far. They just use the free available standard tool. And sure enough, it smells and looks a lot the same no matter who's using it.
You and I both, and Scott as well, understand how tough it is to get dealers to buy into something.
It sure is.
Like, what's your message to them really when you want to get their attention?
Yeah, again, we've learned, right? So in the last year and a half, as we've been doing this AI thing, the one thing we learned is that everyone is scared first and foremost. It's just such a big animal that they don't know where to start. They don't really understand. They know they have to, and this is the thing I hear all the time. West, I know we have to, we just don't know where to start or when. We're just not there yet. And so our recommendation is to them, do what we've always done, and that's have a look at the business first and then figure out how AI can actually help, right? So our primary services now, we're actually doing assessments for dealers, just like I used to do MPS assessments. We now do AI assessments department by department, looking at their workflows and trying to figure out where they have challenges today and where AI potentially can help. I always find that works best, that when the dealer can see that it's actually solving a current problem they already have, that it's going to either save them money or make them money, then it's much easier for them to get engaged. I think the problem with AI is everyone tells people they need it, and then they try and force a certain tool into doing, what it should do for everything, right? And as we know, you can't use a hammer for every problem. So that's one of the things that I do is the assessment first, get them to understand where it can help with their workflows, and then selecting small projects, get started with small things, right? So this AI rabbit that I have involved is one example. Another organization I'm working with, they're very, obviously, like most dealers, are very service centric. So we're building a custom GPT for them for their service techs. And it actually is trained on all of the manuals and all of the features of the devices that they support. So instead of having to go through documentation and search the web, they can now go into this custom GPT and make it much, much faster and more efficient when they're working with customers troubleshooting, right? So, but again, that's an existing problem that they have. It's an application of that problem. And then guess what? It's not ChatGPT that's solving that problem. It's not one tool. It's a different form of AI that's purpose-built for, doing that kind of thing, right? Yeah. So if I had that advice, it'd be assess first, find, your business. That's what this is about. Let's start there.
Just from my not well-informed position on AI, and I'm not ashamed to admit it, it would seem to me that this is a tool that can be used extensively for major account proposal writing. Does that make sense?
It is. Yeah, it's another aspect that we help folks with is we've actually created scope of work generators, proposal generators, and another one that we do is a statement of procedures, which is for people that are doing training. And you can create custom GPTs to do that work. Where I always caution people is it won't do all the work. So although it's trained on it, you still have to approach it in a segmented fashion, right? So if it's an RFP response, to use the AI section by section throughout the proposal. What AI is not good at today, and I'm not going to confuse everybody with the lingo, but there's a thing called a context window, and each type of AI that you're using has a certain limit of words that it can deal with at any given time. That's both the input that you're giving it, so let's say the RFP template, as well as the output that it's giving back. So if you hit that context window ceiling, it then starts to hallucinate, get confused, and produce things that you don't really want to see. It also produces things in a much shorter version than most people expect. But that is fixed, however, if you actually do it correctly and set it up so that you're approaching it section by section. It's a wonderful tool that way because you got to think about it. It's trained on billions of points of data that exist out there. And a whole bunch of that data is from different sample proposals and RFP responses and other things that it's already been trained on. So it's smarter than most people when it comes to helping build good responses.
Well, to kind of wrap this all up, Wes, what would be your your way of closing, and I hate to use that term, but it's reality. You are out there pitching, and you want to get them on board. When you want to close with them, how do you end it?
Yeah, I definitely tell them that AI is not slowing down and it's not going away, right? And unfortunately, unlike other technology paradigm shifts that we've seen, like let's say the birth of the internet, or the advent of wireless communications like cell phones and things like that, those happened in sort of what I would call a mathematical fashion, like 2 + 2 = 4, 4 + 2 = 6, right? Like it was the change rate was enough that we could deal with it. With AI, it's changing so rapidly and so quickly that it's really exponential math, right? So 2 × 2 is 4, 4 × 4 is 16, etc. So if you don't get started now and at least start doing small things, the danger of getting left behind by those that are starting to use it is exponential. The other thing is that let's face facts, right? The space that we're in, people are printing less. That there are, we've seen recent news with a large OEM which has just laid a whole bunch of people off, right? That we have two ways to remedy that. One is to diversify our services, and the second thing is for those existing long tail services like print that we have, reduce cost. And there's nothing better than infusing AI into your business to reduce cost.
Thank you for educating me.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The
We
first job
enjoyed
is curiosity.
we enjoyed it very much, and look forward to catching up with you when we meet at one of these meetings down the road.
Yeah, really looking forward to it, Frank. And Scott, thanks for setting it up. And as I always say at the end of my things, until next time, keep learning.
You got it, pal. Take care. Thank you, Scott. That's it.